Adam, what is good, bro? What are you doing?
I see we have a little bit of issues with the spaces. Is it working yet? Did you get it going?
Oh, it looks like he just ended it. Oh,
yeah,
damn
it ended. So we're live on YouTube. Welcome, hello YouTube, and we got our live stream going. But we're working on getting the spaces going. Yeah, it was one of those ruggy situations. I saw it. It said
I was on stage.
It looks like your host is having connection issues, and then it ended. I think it's going again now. Let's see if he's posted it.
Yeah, we still live though. So
man.
Tell me what's good, man. What'd you do yesterday? Anything interesting?
I mean, the big news, right, was Trump, right? That was the big one. Trump softly endorsing crypto, saying he's going to fix it. But the funny thing was it was a DeGod. I think his name's Malcolm. I can't remember.
Yeah, we talked with them.
Yeah, we talked to him
the D-Desk conversations.
Yeah, and so that was I thought that was pretty cool, And then he had the Mog glasses on. I like Trump's like, hey, the guy with the goggles on over there.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome. And I felt good for him because that's it's really fun to get that kind of, to have that kind of where people see you beyond your normal group, right? It's always super fun when you experience that for the first time, when you get outside of, he definitely got outside of his crypto bubble yesterday.
Yeah.
Which is, if you've never been through it before, anybody listening, it's thrilling, man. I mean, it is. When people say, oh, social media is addictive, like that rush is incredibly addictive. God, I've gone down that rabbit. I spent years chasing that, man. Chasing the thrill of the having something go viral like that. Because it's like for me, obviously not for everybody, but for a lot of people, myself included, it is like crack cocaine straight into the veins, man.
Oh, for sure.
It's really hard. And you see people who just literally their entire life becomes social media simply because of that. It is so addictive. But anyway, I'm sure he had fun. And you know, good news for crypto. I mean, Trump got a lot of crypto voters yesterday. That's for sure.
Well, here, let's talk about this for a second, because I was actually going to post this yesterday, but now I'm going to probably do it today. So what I'm noticing here with meme coins, right? There's two ways to pump a meme coin. There's many ways actually, but I mean the two, I guess, organic ways are centralized exchange listings and viral content. And you know what I'm seeing here with DeGods, I think the DeGods team and Frank has realized this, because Frank is really leaning into MOG over the last few months. I don't know if you've realized this.
Yeah.
So much that, right, they did the NFT NYC stunt, right, with the marshmallow, and that pumped MOG by 30%. And then they just did this stunt with Trump, and all the Trump meme coins pumped by 40% or more across all the chains.
Yep.
So I think what they're doing is, right, they're basically becoming I don't even know how to describe it. They're kind of like a culture-based community, because now they're inherently multi-chain, because they have the Solana bridge, and their bridge is a burn and mint bridge. So the tokens being burnt every time they move back to Solana or ETH. But they're building, you know, a community on both sides, on ETH and on Solana. So they're able to go back and forth between these chains and make partnerships, because that's kind of what they're leaning into, right? This is why they reached out to us to do the D-Desk for Bitcoin DeGods, and kind of build that way, right? So now they can build relationships across Bitcoin, Solana, and Ethereum, and they can reap those benefits, because they just did a partnership recently with somebody on Solana. I forget what the company was, where the DeGods are getting some sort of like airdrop or reward. And so they are enacting basically what we've been talking about for I guess 2 years now at this point, since we joined the team, is, you know, whatever NFT community becomes multi-chain is the one that's going to be able to reap the benefits across all the chains, because you get to use the same asset on every chain. You don't have to go buy, you know, a Blast NFT to participate in Blast. You just use the same asset, right? And you're basically backing it with the culture of your company. And so the DeGods team is really leaning into content per se, and now they've done it twice. So I only think this is going to continue kind of from their end.
Well, you wonder what is the next token they're going to target. And maybe it's nothing about the token. Maybe it is simply just a building awareness for DeGods, right? Which inherently increases the value of DeGods, right? If they become the dominant kind of Web3 community, obviously there's a lot of value to be held there. Certainly an interesting idea and concept. And well, you just wonder what's next. I mean, the thing with Trump, it was funny. I got into a Twitter discussion yesterday about, you know, I think he's released 2 NFT projects already.
They've done 2 rounds on Polygon, and they inscribed the Bitcoin ones. I don't know if they ever sold though.
Right. So, well, Chris can jump in here too. My whole point was that, like, what if he released a rune, right? A Trump-backed rune where he held, you know, 100% of the supply and then sold it, or, I mean, that would be $1 billion coin in a day. Like, very little question. But go ahead, Chris.
Yo, some tough technical difficulties today, but we're up and running. But man, what a day. So just thinking of, we kind of talked about path dependence yesterday a little bit, but how funny is it, just how chaotic that, you know, Trump is a marketing machine. The brand Trump is a marketing machine. They'll put their name on anything and everything. And somewhere along the way, some staffer said that you should do an NFT. And he probably had no idea what that was. Ended up getting approved, led us to where we are today, to where, you know, on the same day that Biden is going to veto a pro-crypto bill, if it gets passed, he's going to take the other side of it, which led him to becoming a pro-crypto candidate, which could potentially swing the election. So some staffer out there in some weird shape or form is potentially completely responsible for winning him the election. Just what a crazy life this is. It just never gets old.
For sure.
Yeah, it's, you know, so when it came to the NFT, I believe they just he just licensed his likeness out to, I forget the team that did it. But yeah, it's been a
Yeah, they do that with everything. They'll do that with like
Yeah.
pillows.
Yeah, he takes
like-
no risk, right? It's like a
So-
guaranteed moneymaker for him. Yeah.
Right. And they'll do that with everything, but that's why it's just like another product to them. But this random obscure product could lead him to having a huge swing in the election. Madness.
Yeah, and I think Vivek, being one of his VP candidates, or is has swung him into the crypto realm. I've never seen such a stark contrast on an issue between two parties as it is between the Dems and Republicans for crypto. It's quite wild. You would think Democrats would be in favor, right? Because it gives power back to the people, but it takes the power away from the government, and they're moving into big government. So I guess it makes sense if you actually think about it.
Yep.
Will be interesting, but he's definitely turned the majority of the crypto space, or Biden's definitely turned the majority of crypto space against him. Biden and Warren. We'll see how the meme coins kind of play out over time. Will be.
So have you looked at the Trump coins today? How'd they do over the course of 24 hours? Have they?
I saw the runes one. So there's one, a low etched runes. I think it's called the Donald Trump, was up like 400% or something like that. I mean, granted, the market cap went from like 1 million to 3 or 4 million.
Yeah.
I haven't checked this morning though.
And those holders, literally, because I was looking, all different people were tweeting about it, and you look in the comments and people were just bombing that token, which, I mean, my brain was just like, oh, well, this is what it's like if you're getting in once the news is out, you literally are exit liquidity. Like, I would not be surprised if that's back down to $1 million today, man. It's like, you just have to be positioned right. I guess you were saying it didn't matter. Kind of Trump was up across the board. But
across all chains. Yeah.
So I don't even know the ones on Solana, which are like misnamed, it's like Donald Bump or whatever the name. I don't even know what they name them, all the ridiculousness, Bowden. And, but yeah, I guess it's what I've learned on Solana, is, and this is true in a lot of crypto, is if you're getting the derivative or the second or third tier, you're probably not going to have huge winners, right? It's usually how has the community or the market decided which is the winner in that space, and that's going to be the one that's going to pump the most. I was thinking about it last week when, or actually just a few days ago, when Choose Rich Nick, the guy who Choose Rich, that whole dude, Nick, he actually renamed when he first did that bit, which completely blew up. I mean, that's been, for me, it was the biggest meme like of this cycle. It's the one that dominated Twitter for the longest
while.
Yeah, like Nick owned the timeline for like a week. And so a bunch of different tokens off of that meme took place. The first one was like Nick, right? Then there was like Rich, and then there was Choose Rich, and there were a bunch of derivatives, right? But Nick was the one that was like the one, right? And so this week he changed his Twitter handle from like NFT Nick to Choose Rich. And bro, I made a tweet about it. Like, the token didn't even move. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. Cause I would have thought here where you had a clear like meme that took over, and the guy's leaning into it even more now that he's going to be Choose Rich Nick. And the market was just like, nah, that's a nothing burger. It's a zero. Chris, walk me through how that happens. Like, why does that not move?
Man, I posted under it. Just too much utility, it seems. Huh?
Utility.
Too much of the utility, not enough just organic growth. I don't know. But in reality, it is a super weird scenario. It just seems that, he did fill the universe with so much attention for a few weeks, but I don't know. Maybe he overplayed it. I don't know for that specific example, but I would have thought that would have pumped it. But it is insane to see the chart that you posted and just the tiniest green blip on it.
Yeah. I mean, it had gone from like, deck of millions of dollars down to whatever it was, $1 million or whatever. And, but people in the comments had decent, things. It was like, oh, it's not an official, right? It's not Nick's token. Obviously just some dude put it out. What else did they say? I guess that was the main one, that it wasn't official. You know, that people were saying too, like named ones don't do well, but we just saw Trump's doing well. So, man, who knows? It just reaffirms too that I don't know shit. I wish I knew how to pick winners and losers.
I still, I traded meme coins years ago. I've been in the Dogecoin community since 2017, but for some reason, just Solana meme coins just do not interest me at all. It reminds me of home. It reminds me of Vegas, right? Where I was born and raised. Chris and I were born on the top floor of Caesar's Palace, right? So we've seen this game over and over and over. And Pumped Up Fun and the Solana meme coins, man, it just reminds me of Vegas. And
too much of Vegas. I would have thought you would have leaned in and been like, this is amazing. I'm a home.
I just have no aspirations to play the game. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Chris, do you play Pumped Up Fun and this stuff?
I don't play Pumped Up Fun. I look at it. You can sort by market cap and kind of see like what people are buying or what they have bought. I don't really. Do you know how much like escape velocity you would need for a new meme to kind of catch traction? It's like so saturated. It's so overplayed. So maybe in some of the OG Solana memes that have kind of been going, for months or years at this point, but for anyone new trying to enter the market, for it to really catch fire and hit hundreds of millions of market cap, billions of market cap, it almost seems basically kind of impossible at this point in time.
Yeah,
Our Cube did drop a comment on the Trump and versus Biden as well. Our Cube, feel free to come on up if you'd like, but I think the Trump versus Biden is just more that Biden is openly hostile to crypto and Trump was not openly hostile to crypto. So I think that's pretty much the entire crypto argument as far as like the politics go. But it's funny that politics and meme coins are all in the same category in this new world that we're going into.
We'll get to Hooked in a second. I just wanted to make one kind of agree with Chris there, that when you get to these like $1 billion valuations and stuff, it's almost impossible if it wasn't manipulated in some way. And I've been convinced of this by people in the Solana ecosystem who've told me about these tokenomics, how much supply is needed to maintain price, how price devolves when you have a huge swath of holders. And we talked about this a little, but I think the big one recently was like that Brett token, I think on base, right? It turned out, right, it pumped to multiple billions of dollars, right? And everybody's like, wow, this is the new, holy cow, this is incredible. Turned out the dev behind it owned literally the entire supply, like 98% of the supply, which means he probably owned 100, just the other 2% was his friends and family. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, that's how you do it. It's like you own the entire supply and you sell into all hype, and just sell a little bit. So you still own the entire supply. And so whether or not any of this can be, if you get to those $1 billion kind of valuations, I think that's why like Dog is interesting, right? Where if it does get to $1 billion, like that was, by all accounts, and we've had enough people look at it now, it's pretty much as fair a distribution as you can get. And so lots of opportunities for people to sell. And so if that gets to $1 billion, that's kind of ruins that thesis. But you see what Chris's point, which is just like, it's when you have a wide distribution, it's almost impossible because people just dump, just human nature. People take profits and get out.
Get out. What's up, Roonies? Do you have something to say? Also, congrats on the mint out. Was that last week? It was last week, right?
Hey guys, it's Dr. Papa again. Thanks so much. I mean, we're so excited. Excuse me, my throat. I got a little tied up. They got me locked in Guantanamo Bay the other day, and I escaped. It's good, but tragically, well, a few of my friends got tested positive for poor pains. we got to come together, okay? I think to get that velocity going that you're talking about, we got to come together and bring these. Instead of tokenomics, we need some jokenomics. Instead of memes, we need medicine. Okay, guys. So I appreciate the support. We're excited to see where we're going. We're working on some really fun things to share with people and let them share. If they've tested positive for pool pains, we're gonna let them come together and support each other and put those pool pains to rest forever. And hopefully we can find an administration that's gonna let us do that. They don't want you to do that, but we're gonna do it anyway.
Well, Roonies, I'm excited to see what you have in store here. I hope it's safe for all of the users who are hooked on the Roonies. That would be very bad if you happen to hurt your audience or your community because they're way too hooked on it.
Oh, what we think it's a good thing that people get hooked. They get hooked together. All right, it's good. It's a good thing, and we're going to come together with it. Side effects aside, it's okay. They're going to make you feel real good, but we got to get an administration in house that's going to let us do our thing. Okay. Right. We don't want none of that financial repression. You can hold on to that.
I pinned up top the DGen news came out. There was this investment manager who came out with their meme coin index. Did you see that yesterday?
I did.
Yeah. So heavily weighted. I just congratulated our Dogecoin friends. Heavily weighted towards Doge. Doge being number one spot at like a little over 30% of the weight. Shiba being next with 28, and then Pepe at 14%, and Dog with Hat and Floki and Bonk kind of bringing up the rear. But I thought that was interesting to see that kind of, we're talking about it. Like I just, maybe the top of this cycle will be, somebody coming out with like an investment fund for meme coins. Like that'll be the top. That'll be the time to get out. But stuff is happening.
The top is one, again, I think I said this like a year ago. The top is once you could buy Doge on X is going to be the top. That'll be then when Dogeinals start pumping. And once people start posting that they're 10,000 X on their Dogeinals is when you just sell everything and walk away for a year or two. I'm telling you, it's exactly.
No, you walk away. Jake walks away forever at that point. Jake's like gone to his private island, man.
These Doginal bags are so heavy, dude. So heavy. But speaking of Dogeinals, the creator of Dogeinals has resurfaced. I don't know if you saw this. The man's name is, or lady, whoever it is, he, she, they, Ape Zord, came back from MIA action from over, I think it was like almost a year since they had posted last. Basically just saying, press the button, let's go, Dogeinals. And as you see, it has literally 137 reposts. No one knows who this person is, but they did create it. And I hope they come back and fix this indexing issue, because that seems to be whatever the holdup is.
Wait, I'm not fully certain of what this story is. So what do you mean? He created it
and then disappeared? No, so yeah, so when he created Dogeinals, he had to create the indexer. Sure. But it's a fork of Ordinals, but they had to make some adjustments because Dogecoin does not have SegWit or Taproot. So Bitcoin Ordinals operate on Taproot, Litecoin Ordinals operate on SegWit, and Dogeinals operate on just the legacy wallet themselves. So he made some adjustments, and I think one of the contentious issues is, and this may be slightly off, but the Doge Labs indexer that everybody uses is not the same thing of what ApeSword had created. They had modified it. And I think this is where some of the issues with the indexer comes in, because everyone is using Doge Labs indexer. But from what I hear from people who reach out to me, they're not very open with it. And it's causing some issues. As we know, OKX was working with Doge Labs. They announced this has to be 3 months ago, that Doge Labs and OKX had that partnership announcement. This was like February, so maybe 3 months ago, that they were working on fixing the indexer. And, we're almost 3 months later, nothing has came out.
Yeah.
Doginal Hub, the token hub, has shared recently that this had to be a few weeks ago, that they're building their own indexer and that they were working with centralized exchanges to link DRC20 to those exchanges. So, there's a lot of issues on the back end of what really is going on. Maybe that's why Abesord came back, or at least announced that he was alive or the person was alive. No one knows really who it is.
Yeah, why go away? How do you trust this at all? How do you trust this dude at all? If he like starts it and then vanishes for a year?
Well, that'd be like Satoshi, right?
But Satoshi didn't come back.
Satoshi did not come back.
Yeah, that's interesting, man.
So something to follow. There are a few teams that seem to be working on it now. Luckily, right, as we know how ordinals operate, on Bitcoin, ordinals start pumping once Bitcoin starts pumping, and once Bitcoin starts cooling off, everything kind of falls off. I would assume the same is for Doge. So once you get, that's what the thesis is. Once you get Doge on X, they're now at 20. I think they have like 25 of the 50 licenses, money transmitter licenses. And people just start buying Doge on X, right? You have 300 million people who could do this. And I think X also announced a partnership with Robinhood like a few months ago as well. And Robinhood came out yesterday and said they had $23 billion in cryptocurrencies on their platform, right? That's not the most, but that's definitely a lot, right? So I think once Doge starts pumping is once people start coming back to Dogeinals. Hopefully you have the infrastructure set up, but until then, prices are just getting slaughtered.
So what's Doge at today compared to?
I think it's at like $1, honestly.
Oh wow, okay. So it got up to last kind of pump. It got up to over 5. Because I remember specifically not buying it at like $1.75 and feeling like a fool because it ran up to like 5. And so that's interesting to see where it is.
Yeah, you compare it to the other ecosystems, like Stamp on SRC20 has held up pretty decently. I mean, it's definitely fallen off of its high from, I think it was like up to 130 million down to like 50 or 40. But it's also on Bitcoin. So the volatility will be a little less because it's denominated in sats instead of being denominated in Sheebs over here. So it's the ordinals do, at least the BRC20 ones, they do kind of withstand or have a share of whatever the underlying value is of the chain pretty well, right? Like Litecoin ordinals are just off a cliff, although no one buys Litecoin really, but the pot is about 4 times less than what I think Litecoin's 5 billion and Doge was at 20 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And so Lite is at like 2 pennies or something like that. And Dogeinals is at $1, although there's a lot more attention. So if they ever figure that out, that's going to be a insane trade to say the least. And you also have dunes that have started to pop up, which we'll be covering here in a second. But our favorite thing to talk about on Doge, because it seems to be the only thing really to talk about, is Leica. Their testnet is incoming here pretty soon. They did have their pre-sale for the token I did participate in. It did not sell out fully, which, whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, to be determined. They didn't announce whether they would be distributing the entire initial allotment to the pre-salers or if they're just going to pocket it, right? I think that'll show the character of the team if they do, right? You would think if a pre-sale doesn't sell out, you're supposed to, at least in good faith to the community, distribute what was supposed to be sold to the people who, put their faith in you.
Yep.
So we'll see. It'll be a test of their character. Something tells me they're not going to, because they've been quiet. It's a little bit sketchy, kind of all of it, but we'll see how the testnet is, and something to pay attention to. What's up, Chris? What are you thinking?
Oh, just that, as far as Dogeinals and the whole ecosystem goes, the token's still down like 80%. And so when the token's down so much, there's not a ton of wealth within that ecosystem. And the same thing kind of happened with Solana, where, none of the ecosystem assets really started moving as far as fungible tokens until the token recovered to a sustainable level. So from $8, it rocketed up to maybe like 80, 120, somewhere around then, ended up going to 200 within that time frame afterwards. But none of the ecosystem kind of assets really started moving until it got to more of a sustainable level. So I think it'll probably be something similar to Doge as well. Once it gets maybe half of all-time highs, 60, 70% of all-time high, then there's enough wealth in the ecosystem where people made a ton of money off Doge and they start spending within the ecosystem too.
That's why you are our professional TradFi investor. you know how it all works, right? So outside of that, I have here pulled up on the screen Benny from Track, which we'll probably cover here again pretty shortly, are working on Doginal things. Somebody put in the Track Discord, I heard that Track will index Doginals, but nothing happened. Is there any clarification to this matter? Benny says, yes, there are technical dependencies that we are solving right now, and then we're good to go. The code name of the project is called Magic Degen. At least he's having some fun. I mean, to be honest, if anyone's going to solve this indexing issue, it's probably going to be Track, right? They've been building indexing stuff for Bitcoin for the last year. They have a lot of major things coming here pretty shortly. They've done DIPE, right? They've done TAP. There's a new thing called Promises, and there's a handful of other things. So I guess between Benny and Track and then the hub team, got to figure out this indexing thing. And once that's up, then hopefully, right, you get all these centralized exchange listings. And as we talked about, like meme coins, right, at least the two very clear things to get meme coins pumping is exchange listings and viral content, right? So getting Elon, this would be like getting Elon to say something about Doge or Doginals, right, would probably pump it, or getting these exchange listings to start building some hype again. Yeah. And the exchange listings are not happening apparently until this indexing thing is solved. And it does not appear that Doge Labs has the skill set to do it, because they just did their Labradoges drop, which was about a year after the initial. I bought those Labradoge packs back in like June of last year.
I don't get, I mean, well, I do get it because it's tech, and we know tech is more complex, more difficult than you imagine, right? But it is stunning that, working with OKX, they couldn't figure it out, or are still working on figuring it out. It's disappointing is the way to say it, really.
I would say disappointing. Sometimes teams just do not have the skill set to get it done, right? We've been working on a bunch of stuff for a while. We've been doing our migration for 9 months and figured out, wow, this lift is magnitudes higher than what we had originally perceived. And so they could be in a similar situation, although their comms about it has been pretty light. My personal take is, if you're struggling with something technically, you should definitely share with the community what's the holdup, instead of just, because if you just continue to suppress if you continue to suppress something that is not going to be an actuality, then you should at least let them know, or else the price will just continue to bleed forever and it'll never go back up. You'd rather have that little capitulation wick, and then, all right, let's move on to the believers.
Well, we might, I mean, it's possible. Maybe we'll try to get him on the show. The guy who disappeared for a year and just came back. Yeah, he made a bumped up against that, where he's like, oh, I did this thing, but oh my God, like, holy cow, there's no way, right? I do not have the technical prowess to kind of push this across the finish line, right? And so he might have just bowed out, which would totally make sense. But again, why coming back now? Is he going to launch his L2 with a token drop? I get those kind of vibes immediately, so I just got my red flags up.
How funny is that? Out of the other pretty solid news, Ordinals bot came out with a Dunes etching and minting service, and a Litecoin etching.
It's incredible. Did we even know where they were working on this? I had no idea.
When we had talked with them, because Emblem has talked with Ordinals bot, because this is alpha, I guess, for you guys. They will be the Sats provider for Emblem on Bitcoin, as well as a few other things that we're working with them. They had mentioned on a call that they were exploring multi-chain options. I mean, they have 2 rounds of investment now, so they have to expand this business model, and they're doing really well. Brian is doing a really good job at leading it, and Ori, I think's the other guy, or Ordinarius, I believe his name is. They're doing a good job, but I was actually pretty surprised that they brought the Litecoin one out. I guess they're like,
totally.
For my conversations that I've had with Harry from Ordinals Wallet, he said that basically once you get the system, the meta protocol down on Bitcoin, it's usually pretty plug and play for the rest of them. So I would assume once they had Bitcoin runes down, then they were like, oh, Dunes and Litecoin runes are probably pretty simple. And so they just take this business model and apply. That's what Harry said with all of their stuff. He said if it's a UTXO, we could probably spin it up quite quickly.
Yep.
So bullish news for that's probably the most bullish news you could get for Litecoin ordinals.
True.
Although the Litecoin account did tweet out that they have the official at Litecoin tweeted out that they have Litecoin runes. I did test out the Dunes etching on Ordinals bot, and it does work. There was a bug actually. I had paid for something and minted it, and after 24 hours, I'd messaged Brian. I was like, I don't think this is working. And they're like, oh, you found a bug. It's like, yeah. Cool. So it does work. The number that I etched was in the 400s. I thought it was actually going to be much higher because there's people who have been chilling Dunes for quite a while. And the fact that it literally cost me 5 Doge to do, it cost me $1 to etch this. And it's still in the 400s. I was quite surprised. So if you want to sub 1K Dunes, then that's the right way. It's funny for the Emblem token. That's the one that I etched. We have number 51 on Litecoin. We have number 426 on Dunes or on Dogecoin. Then we have number 5,070 on Bitcoin. So we got 2-digit, 3-digit, and 4-digit.
Nice.
What will it be used for? You guys will have to find out later. On the next episode of the Emblem Town Hall, you'll probably find out a little bit more. Speaking of, track, their TAP token, I don't know if we covered this last time. It looks like it came out during our last show last week. They are listing the official TAP token of the TAP protocol on CoinList. I, to be honest, didn't even know CoinList had a launchpad.
Oh no.
I did not know, but looking at some of the tokens that have been through it, there's some large ones. Flow, Solana. There was a handful, I think like Arbitrum or Optimism. There were some like pretty big protocols that had gone through the CoinList launchpad that I literally didn't even know exist. So from the rumors that I'm hearing, or at least from what I've seen on the timeline or in Hopium, is that it'll probably come out at like $100 million market cap.
Yeah.
To the secondary market. I don't know if I'm a buyer at $100 million. That's pretty high, but we'll see. I think this is this is definitely gonna be a bullish catalyst for the ecosystem because Track has also come out with a handful of things. They came out with Track Promises, which is some sort of delegation mechanism that the block runner guys are using for they call it the block pad. Remember we covered this last time, where it was the gamification minting pad, and let's see if I could find it here for TAP Promises. I think it's called Promises. But anyways, so with TAP Promises, it's this delegation thing, which is how the block runners are doing their block pad PvP mint for their NAT or DMT ecosystem. I know it sounds like a lot of gibberish, but right, anybody who's listening to this from the outside, they're like, what the hell are you talking about?
What the fuck? So this was the one where it was the grid, and you were kind of picking within that grid, right? That was the
yeah. They had a testing.
I think 1,000 people doing it at the same time, kind of thing, on the test net or whatever.
Yeah. So yesterday they had like some sort of like testing thing, and I was trying to participate in it, and I think it broke again. So I'm trying to find the details on the TAP Promises, but I'll do that in a second here. But I think then if this is a bullish catalyst for the Track ecosystem, tangentially Bitmap is also probably going to pump because Bitmap is indexed by Track. I think that was actually the first project that had used Track, right? So you have Bitmap is there, you have Pipe ecosystem, the Tap ecosystem. I think Karma and the on-chain monkeys are using Tap, and now you have the DMT people using Tap. I think this is probably a rumbling. Of course, I have minimal bags in the ecosystem outside of like Bitmap and NAT token.
Yep.
But if you're looking for something, I think this is probably going to be one of the hotter items to come out. Adam, are you a fan of the Tap and Track ecosystem?
It's just like I don't understand what it is necessarily. I don't get it. I mean, I know those Karma guys because I got dropped, the card and this and that, and that stuff all basically went to zero immediately. I don't, because they fumbled it. I mean, really, like full stop. Jason, the way he brought it out,
Yeah.
People just turned, myself included. I was just like, okay, I'm out. I'm not interested in this anymore because of the way he approached his, his rune drop, which is like, hey, give us $30 million, and then, and then we'll tell you maybe what it's for. And so, I think he fumbled the bag there significantly. He fumbled interest, and then they dropped a bunch of tokens, and you're like, what are these? They're nothing. What are they for? We don't even know. What's it all? Why? What is this? It's not a meme coin. It's obviously connected with something, but I think that stuff's all been erased to zero. It's just, I don't know. Yeah, it just feels like, what is it? Why? Why is this different than runes? Why is this different than ordinals? What is this? And why should I be paying attention to it? That's where I am right now.
Yeah, I agree as well. So here on one of the Tap posts, it says that Promises enables rollups, authorities, inscriptions, efficiency, multi-send, OrdFi. I think this Promises thing enables also that Tap bridge that we talked about. I was listening to the Ordinal Revolution call with, I think it was Benny the other day or somebody. And there was a discussion of wrapped track where with the Tap, I think it's called Tap Bridge, they're basically going to wrap track BRC20 and then use it in the Tap ecosystem. Which sounds, dude, whatever ecosystem you could do natively on Bitcoin for DeFi is probably going to be a multi-billion-dollar opportunity. So if they can be the one that figures it out, obviously you have Udi and Eric with OPCat, who are also, vying for this multi-billion-dollar opportunity. They're very aware of it. The track team, right? Adam, who do you got? If it's Tap versus Cat VM to be the leading solution for,
bro, that's the easiest. That's the easiest pick on earth, man.
Who you got?
That's guaranteed money, bro. I bet the house on Udi and Eric.
You think so? Even though they have to get a soft fork in to make this happen.
Yes, absolutely. They're better players on socials. I mean, I pinned up top Eric yesterday. Obviously, they're attacking. They're on offensive. They are making it very clear to the world, in their view, and trying to convince all as Bitcoiners that L2s are basically can never work on Bitcoin, right? Not in the way you want it to. And they're setting it up to the only solution is OpCat, right? And I mean, just so I would put my money on them just because they're good fighters, man. And whether or not that's true, it may be completely wrong. I don't know technically, but certainly they're talking the game that makes it sure sound like they're right.
They're definitely on attack mode. They've been going after BitVM for, I think, a few weeks now. Obviously, they've been going after the Bitcoin L2s. And maybe we could sit here and talk about this forever because you did tag me in this and I have it pulled up here on the live stream. I think what Eric said is completely right. We've been talking about it. We've been saying that the Bitcoin L2s are literally just ETH L2s with a Bitcoin focus.
Yep.
And that Bitcoin L2 is misleading. The name has always been misleading. The ones that did call themselves Bitcoin L2s prior were Stacks and Rootstock. Stacks and Rootstock have both been around since 2018 or before. Stacks before was called Blockstack, I think it was called.
Yep.
Right? Was it Blockstack? And then they moved to Stacks or something of that nature.
Yep.
And even them, right? They had a little bit more of a Bitcoin parallel. It still wasn't complete. I mean, you look at Stacks, right? So if you look at Stacks, it's built in Clarity. So they made their own language or contract language, just like how Vitalik made their own contract language for Ethereum called Solidity. So, what's the founder's name of Stacks? What's his name? Munib, right? He's been in literally since the beginning. He did one name on Namecoin back in the day.
Yep.
So he has a full understanding. But even then, right? Is it really a Bitcoin L2? Right? What is a Bitcoin L2? Since it doesn't officially plug into Bitcoin, it's not officially an L2. I guess it really depends on your name or like your definition of it. And then Rootstock has like this like peg in, peg out kind of thing with Bitcoin. And I think that's kind of, I guess, what people call an L2. If you could plug Bitcoin in and get a synthetic on the other side, that I guess it's an L2.
How many people using Rootstock? Show of hands. Anybody ever used Rootstock ever? Anybody in the space ever? Raise your hand.
I did get in on the Sovereign ICO when Pomp was shilling it in 2021. That has been my literally worst trade of all time.
Wait, tell us about that. I don't know enough about it. Tell me about it.
So you don't remember last cycle, Pomp was shilling Sovereign. Sovereign is the top DeFi application on Rootstock. And he was shilling the ICO. And so I bought it and it pumped to like, I don't know, 50 or 100 million or something. And literally when I finally sold, it was like a minus 98% loss. Oh. It's like, all right, I'm going to take this one as a tax write-off because it's just like it's coming back anytime soon. That was by far my worst like completed trade. But okay, moving from those two who are kind of like the OGs in the space, you have Merlin, who he directly attacks on it. He actually attacks Merlin so much that he says that basically they ripped off Taproot Wizard.
He's basically calling them scammers, really, is what he's
right.
Yeah.
I give Jeff Jeff's the founder of Merlin, a little bit more faith. He's been on multiple shows every week since they started. He's actually, if you listen to what he says, everything he said has happened. Their direction, I didn't actually know this, that the Merlin team actually comes from Web2 gaming. And it was interesting to hear his explanation of their approach towards Merlin, the quote unquote Bitcoin L2.
Yeah.
And they're just saying like they thought EVM was the best path to the best current path to getting done what they wanted, which was to build gaming applications for Bitmap and for Bitcoin.
Yep.
And they just thought EVM was the easiest way to do it. And it sounded like they were pretty moot towards like the technicalities of like this conversation that we have now. Like, is it a Bitcoin L2? Is it an ETH L2? Is it EVM? Whatever. It sounded like they just didn't even care. They were just like, our focus is literally building Bitcoin applications. This is the best way to do it now, and this is what we're doing. And
yeah, I mean, look, for me, like, do I think it's a scam? They haven't stolen anybody's money yet, so for me, it's not a scam, right? Yet, doesn't mean they couldn't, but in the same way that like Pac-Man and Blast, is it a scam yet? No. If he stole everybody's money, it would be a scam, but is it a decentralized L2? No, obviously not. In the same way that Blast isn't decentralized or Base isn't decentralized. Like none of these L2s are decentralized, right? I mean, this is the combo we're having, right? I mean, people. I mean, at this point, the market doesn't care two shits about decentralized. It literally doesn't matter. What they care about is free money, dude. I mean, that's literally all this crypto market gives a shit about is where can I go to get most free money as possible, as fast as possible. Like that's all it's about right now. I mean, Eric's conversation. I mean, obviously he has such a huge bag moving in one direction. I take what he says with a grain of salt too, and Udi as well. I mean, you have to go with open eyes to what they're pushing as well. And they are definitely pushing a significant agenda. And I guess Bitcoiners will have to kind of fight it out as to what we're gonna, work with. And again, it just may be It may all be L1s. I'm just putting it out there. It may all be L1s. L2s, none may survive. And we just decide L1s are the way to go. They're the most decentralized. None are perfect, but there you can get layers of or closer to the centralized perfection. And then we just have, blockchain specific for very specific niche cases. And you just move your stuff around those L1s depending on need. I don't know. That's my current thesis as probably the best way forward. I just don't, these L2s, they're kind of gamified for now, but I just see better gamification on L1s, frankly.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation of the divide. I don't know if you saw Charlie Spears' post yesterday. All of our colleagues and friends are all in Bitcoin Asia. He came out. I take what Charlie says generally pretty serious because he's a pretty smart guy.
Yep.
And he's generally very honest and he's really in tune with the miners. He said, extricating yourself from the Western Bitcoin Twitter and talking to Asian Bitcoiners makes me think that this software thing actually might happen. And it'll probably include OPCat.
Yep.
So it sounds like Bitcoin upgrades are a hot topic at Bitcoin Asia right now. Obviously, you have Casey's there, right? You have Jason Fang who set it all up. So the VCs, obviously, if you're a VC, right? And of course, in the background of the picture, it's literally the layer 2 venture capital and presentation or panel in the background as he says this, right? Of course, VCs, right? They are coming to, and all these quote unquote Bitcoin L2s are all funded by VCs, at least I would say all of them. I mean, people don't know. Stacks has raised like $75 million over the last 8 years or so.
Sure.
Like they've raised a ton of money, tons of capital, probably the most of it. It's literally magnitudes higher than any of these Bitcoin L2s that they've done, right? So all of these L2s, I don't know Rootstock per se, what their background is, but it's safe to say the large majority of these are all funded by VCs. And the reason why is because VCs need to find what is it a value investment. And right now they would say the value is, if Bitcoin is 1.2 trillion and things need to scale, right, then this is probably an easy 10x for us to do. But at some point, right, once the Bitcoin layer 2 kind of trade ends, they're like, what's next? Do we buy runes directly? Or do we force an upgrade to Bitcoin, which opens up, potentially billions of dollars in new venture capital funding?
Well, I think the interesting thing, and it's a long kind of complicated history, and I don't know fully. And if anybody wants to come up and correct me and tell me I'm wrong, totally awesome. But you think about these L2s on Bitcoin. Stacks was the one that had, a shitcoin attached to it, which Bitcoiners hated. But you had basically Rootstock and you had Blockstream with Liquid Network, and they didn't have tokens, but by retail's account or user account, they've been complete failures. Like Blockstream and Liquid, like nobody uses it. They came out with NFTs, they had an ID system. They've tried all the stuff we've seen in traditional crypto, and none of it's worked. Like nobody uses Liquid, right? And so I think the difference here between like what Udi and Eric are doing is they can bring retail. Like they can bring retail in where you're going to see traction. And that's the differentiator of what's happening on all these, Merlin and this sort of stuff, is there's actual traction, actual use, actual money being spent. And look, the miners will literally do anything to make more money. They don't give a shit. I know that from now working with miners. They don't care. It is like the most vicious free market on earth. And if you told them OpCat needs to be in there for you to make money, they'll be like, yep, what switch do we have to push? Like, yes, they don't care. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out over the next year or two. Like the battle lines are being drawn right now. We see it. But how it goes and how it all, figures out, is going to be really, really interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah. One more thing, and I'm probably going to tweet this later. I think Cat VM, outside of just Udi and Eric having, large influence, and also Eric's just very technically, minded. He's a very, very smart person if you listen to what he says. They have this positive feedback loop, which could potentially, it's a positive feedback loop in this way, right? So whenever a fork comes or a soft fork or whatever, right, there has to be a vote, and you have basically last time when there was the Bitcoin Cash fork, it was basically miners versus developers. This time around, now you have a whole ecosystem on top. So not only do you have just not only do you just have holders and Bitcoin holders and developers and miners, you now also have protocol operators, right? You have venture capital firms, you have small teams. So everyone's right. I don't think everyone has a vote. I actually don't know. I actually don't know off the top of my head how the BIP voting process goes, but there's larger amounts of influence in the background. And here, miners are making the majority of their capital now through ordinals, or at least in certain moments throughout the day or throughout the week. And here, right, builders on Bitcoin are becoming frustrated because there is a limitation, right? And if this limitation continues, then miners are going to lose revenue because inscriptions aren't being created, right? There's the block subsidies decreased, and so now they need to make transaction volume. And as people become conflicted about being able to build, they're going to want some other opportunity or venue. And this is where I think Eric and Udi probably saw this years ago and have played it pretty well. People are going to start looking around and saying, okay, what can we do to fix this, right? And right now, the only two things is really tap or cat VM. And if they're pushing a soft fork, now you're going to have all of the ordinals community, you're going to have the VC capital teams, right? All pushing for cat VM because there's no other option. And basically all the ordinal people who are inscribing and all the builders could basically just hold the miners hostage and say, yeah, look, your revenue was literally just cut by 50%. If you want to make this back, then you have to push cat VM so that we can build and continue to line your pockets and make sure that your business is operating.
Yep.
And it really puts the developers kind of in a corner, right? I know there are a handful of developers that are supporting cat VM, but it's like at that point, right? If you have all the degen traders and you have the miners and you have the VC capital and you have the builders all pushing this, it seems like it's pretty inevitable to happen. So that's my thanks for coming to my TED Talk there. So I think they're a pretty smart team for doing it. Unless Tap comes out and really is like, hey, we don't need a soft fork, we could just do this. Or you get some sort of like DEX or some sort of DeFi protocol that comes in and just build a really cool experience to where people are like, okay, the front end of Magic Eden or Omnisat or whatever it is built an experience to where it doesn't even matter anymore, right? I would say it's probably 50-50 at this point, which is much higher than it was before.
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't even being discussed, a year ago. So this is interesting times, man.
Until then, everyone gets to hang out on Merlin and all of these other ones. I do want to know as well, I have talked with probably 5, maybe 8 of these Bitcoin L2s personally on a call because they're all interested in Emblem. And I would say there's maybe 2 or 3 that I would find credible. The rest of them, again, were just wanted to get a partnership announcement in before they even had a product live, which to me was like, okay, they're just trying to pump this token, or they're trying to get partnership announcements to raise capital on behalf of the protocol itself. So a one Merlin announcement I thought was very interesting was Layer 0 is now live on Merlin chain. So it says this an integration enables connectivity between Merlin and 70 other networks. Developers can tap into core features in Merlin such as BRC20 and 420. I think this is major, right? This is something that Emblem actually will be doing as well. So, right, this is kind of like a little bit of direct competition. Basically here, right, Layer 0 deploying on Merlin, you could have a situation where you're taking MBTC, MBitmap, M whatever, and plug it into these other EVM chains through like the Layer 0 messaging protocol. So you could see BRC20 being moved over to all these other ETH2s. I don't know if Layer 0 has SVM support yet or not, but you could see this could be the other alternative of people just using the Merlin quote unquote bridge to take their assets to these EVM chains and so forth. So I think this is something probably pretty important to pay attention to. Layer 0 and Wormhole are the two Goliaths in the interoperability kind of space, right? Emblem is just like a small fish, but with our own kind of system, right? We're the big fish when it comes to NFTs. Layer 0 is the big fish when it comes to fungible tokens and Wormhole. So I think that's something to pay attention to as you get all these synthetic Bitcoin assets across these different chains. So
Well, you wonder if they're going to target runes in this sort of.
probably. Jeff did say that the Runes Bridge should be open in a week or two on one of his recent spaces. Like the Merlin team is shipping, so that's why I have faith in them. The Bitcoin L2 framework, or the narrative of Bitcoin L2 is definitely misleading. To me, a Bitcoin L2 just means we're focusing on Bitcoin assets. That's literally, to me, all it means. Because you could literally, I mean, like Arbitrum and Optimism, they all have WBTC. So you could just say they're Bitcoin L2s too, right? You could plug Bitcoin into their stuff. So it's all narrative and intention, I guess, more than anything else itself. Speaking of integrations, Ghosty Cash has been going balls deep into Bitcoin assets, dude. They just announced support for SRC20 last week on the show. That we said that they announced that they are supporting Runes and BRC20 and added Lightning as well. So through Ghosty Cash, who has I think it's a tap, actually. I think it's a tap asset. They have their own token on tap. And you can use this. Ghosty Cash is similar to Shapeshift or Change Now if you've ever used these swap tools. So you could take SRC20 and swap it for BNB or Solana or whatever. So I think this is another kind of major upgrade for
this allows me to trade my stamp assets for my stamp fungibles for other assets, basically. Is that it?
Other fungibles. Yeah. Have you ever used like Shapeshift or Change Now or these where it's like, I want to swap ETH for Doge, or I want to swap
so
Doge.
You just like with them, you would just say, okay, I want to swap ETH for Bitcoin, for example, the most basic, right? Mm-hmm. And they'll basically give you an address. You send in 1 ETH and they spit out Bitcoin to your Bitcoin wallet on the other side, kind of thing.
Yep, exactly. So you could do this now with Runes and SRC20 and BRC20. They've been able to do. Does it actually work? I personally have not tried it yet. So does it work? I don't know. There's definitely some sophistication on the back end of this because you're now integrating like 3-4 different indexers, right? There's one indexer for Stamp. There's a different one for BRC20. There's a different one for Tap. There's a different one for Runes. So,
bro, how do they even come up with pricing and all that? It's got to be, this is, yeah, I wouldn't want to know what that back end looks like.
Yeah, props to them though. The cool thing with Ghosty Cash that I like, they have this thing. It's built on Monero, or it has the Monero. Is it really? It has this. It's not quote unquote built on, but they integrated the Monero ring signature scheme, so you can plug it in. I've tried it. It does make the swap about 3 or 4 hours longer. So if you're in a hurry, do not use it. And I don't know. I don't know proof if it's worked or not. I'm not a developer, so I can't look to see if there was any kind of leakage through the transaction. But there's a slider on there that you could basically plug on and make your transactions quote unquote anonymous through the ring signature scheme.
They're going straight to jail, bro. Straight to jail. Ghosty Cash, they're ghosted, bro. This thing's got to close down in a week. I tell you, we haven't even talked about it, but the number of wallets and transfer places like this that have closed over the last 2 weeks it's stunning, man.
All Bitcoin ones shut down.
They're literally just shutting down. The Monero ones are all shutting down. I mean, people are just like not going to jail. Shut it down. Definitely feels like to a large extent, U.S. government's winning on this front. I mean, people are just smartly. I mean, like, who wants to go to jail over something like this? And people are they're bowing out. It's a bit scary. So anyway, good for Ghosty.
I give it a few years, and there will be some other private ones. People will come about it. They'll approach it in a much different way.
Hopefully. Yeah. I mean, you almost have to approach it where I'm not going to make money on this. I'm just doing this as a common good. Be anonymous, launch it anonymously, don't take any funds. And it's just a piece of software running on the internet, because anytime it's not that, like you're just getting arrested now. It's crazy.
I haven't looked into the details of was it Samurai, the guys who got arrested? But in Tornado Cash, the main premise of the legal action was that the Tornado Cash devs profited off of the illicit transactions that are going through their platform. And if you look at it, I think that they should be free. I don't think they should be arrested from this. But I do think there are some legal grounds of that, because there's proof that they made profits through Tornado Cash.
Sure.
Which again, I don't think, right? I think they should all be legal and open source and stuff. But if you're playing in the realm of the government courthouse or the US government courthouse, right, you're playing by their rules, and that's what they're coming after. So I don't know. I didn't look at the Samurai case to see if that was the same thing, if they're saying they're profiting off of like illicit transactions or not. But I would assume this is probably what they're going to throw at them.
Probably. Yep.
So, and outside of that, dude, I got a few things. Our favorite dog coin, literally called Dog, has gotten 2 different listings recently after everyone said that they would never get listed anywhere. Bitmart has listed, and Bitmart's just a derivatives exchange, so they don't even need capital to really back it. You just need dollars at that point. So that was a little bit of a troll post yesterday. I don't think most people realized it.
Wait, no, tell me what does that mean? I don't even understand what that means.
So Bitmart is a leverage. It's like leverage trading. Okay. It's a derivatives exchange. So you're basically just taking a loan out, right? Have you ever like gone long or short on an asset?
I never do that shit, man. Never.
So basically you're just putting a deposit down. In this case, they'd probably be putting Bitcoin down. And you're basically just taking a leveraged loan out, going long or short. So the exchange themselves doesn't need to acquire Dog because the trading is probably happening in Bitcoin.
Gotcha. So you're never taking ownership of Dog. You're simply betting long or short, and you're just paid in whatever money you're betting, probably in Bitcoin.
Yeah. I haven't used Bitmart in a long time, but it's usually Bitcoin is where you're going long or short, or Ethereum. Gotcha. I think you could do tether long and short too. I don't know. Chris might know. Do you know if you're going long or short with Bitcoin on Bitmart?
I've never used Bitmart personally, but yeah, a lot of times these days it's mostly integrated stables. So you would your P&L would be in stable form.
Gotcha.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, but SuperX, which is the other one, this is what you call a spot exchange. So this is where you have to come in and deposit Dog, and then they'll take it, right? So that was a big one. I mean, the coin is pumped. I think it's up like 50% or so.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Just those 2 things.
And the dog go to the moon.io is their new website the community had put together.
Nice.
I have it here pulled up on the live stream. It's pretty simple, straight to the point, right? It's just what is it about? Where can you buy it? It's pretty well done for just kind of like a little landing page. Talks about Runestone, the airdrop, the mission, free and fair, right? The memers are coming in hard. Hard. And they got Leo down there, and the dog father, meet Leonidas himself.
Right? Dogfather's gonna be pissed about that, bro.
I was thinking about this yesterday. Oh, and Dog Go to the Moon is on CoinMarketCap, and it's actually classified in the meme category and ecosystem. So if you go to memes on CoinMarketCap, you have Dog is down here, number 237, sitting at a $278 million market cap.
Behind Brett, that phony coin scam.
Yeah. So let's see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's 12th currently. I do think CoinMarketCap is missing a few, but you'd say top 15, right? Not bad. Leo's been pushing it. I was thinking about this yesterday I was thinking about kind of the different meme ecosystems that are popping up, because Pups also started their migration yesterday. And this will be a large one because it was at one point the highest valued kind of pre-runes, I guess would be the way that you classify it. They just started their migration after Zbit did it using OrdKit. So that was a pretty cool kind of collaborative effort between everybody, between Zbit, Pups, the Wizard team, and OrdKit to build this like Burn BRC20 mint runes, although in the first 24 hours, I have to say I'm actually quite surprised of the lack of participation so far.
Wow.
I checked this morning and there was only 600 people who had migrated so far.
So tell me exactly how this is working. So, because I mean, I've of course heard pups and all this, but I don't understand exactly. So this was a pups BRC20. So that was like the pre, and they said, oh, we're going to transfer it to runes. But so what you're doing is you're sending in your BRC20 to like basically a burn wallet or their like multi-sig wallet or something. And then you're going to get the runes on the other side. That's what's happening?
Yep.
Okay.
That's exactly what's happening. And so there's multi-layers to this, and I'll have to pull up Joe's tweet, Farmer Joe's tweet here in a second as well. But they're also building the SPL. How do I explain this? So you have the BRC20 pups that's bridged to Solana, right? So
that's like an ordinal collection, right?
No, there's three collections. There's this is where it gets confusing, right? So you have pups.
The original BRC20
is pups.
BRC20 right? is which is pups. Then that was minted out a while ago. Yeah.
It was airdropped actually. So Joe's the one that created pups. He airdropped, I think it was like 777 to Opium and Bitcoin puppets holders, I believe. So once that was distributed, right, it was free. He partnered with Multibit and they built the pups bridge to Solana. So you have BRC20 pups, and then you have
Solana
pups BRC20 on Solana.
How did they manage that migration?
So hold on, this is where I'm getting to it. Then they created the pups ordinals collection. That's the one that you see on Magic Eden, right? The one that was trading at I think it's trading at around, let's see real quick. It is trading at like 0.07. This one, Rune Pups, it's at 0.06 Bitcoin, right? So you have this one as well. And users, whoever's holding these ordinal Rune Pups right here are getting airdrop Runes Pups, right? So you have three different ways or three different assets that you have to migrate. BRC20 native pups, SPL20 pups, right? That are the BRC20 version, and Rune Pups. And so they just opened up the bridge for if you have native BRC20, you can burn it for runes, right? And I think with these Rune puppets, I believe it's an airdrop or a claim. It's one of the two. So I believe next will be you have Rune Pup. If you have a Rune Puppet, you could plug in and claim whatever the allotted amount was. There's like different percentages. I think it was like 77% goes to BRC20, 23% goes to this or something. The main issue here, right, is this. And this is what I pointed out a month ago. You have the SPL20 BRC20, right, of pups. Why would anybody bridge their SPL20 back to claim when you have a pool that's trading on Solana?
Right.
But there's now, according to Magic Eden, there's now 652 holders who have Runes Pups. What if I wanted to go create a Runes Pups SPL20 pool right now? Now there's two pups SPL, and now there's two Solana pools. One is the BRC20 pups, one is the Rune Pups, right?
Yeah.
So I think Joe, they probably realized this pretty recently because he said that they're going to create a migration portal which will swap your SPL20 BRC20 pups for the SPL20 Runes Pups, if that makes sense.
No.
Right?
I think this is why, like you've just touched on, the main issue is that for monkeys like me, it's too fucking confusing. Nobody knows what the fuck is going on. And, part of when it comes to sales and interest is that, you can make stuff somewhat confusing for like tokenomics, and it actually works in a lot of sense for tokenomics and gamification and gambling. A little bit of confusion can go a long way. But when it comes to like meme coins, we want this to be dumbed down, stupid, easy, right? And the screen you just had up, how many sales are taking place right now? And
it's not much.
Zero. There's like zero pending
There's zero buys, yeah.
right? So I mean, we talked about this before. Is it so diffuse that you lose your holders? And I think maybe they're bumping up against that right now.
So it came out at $269 million market cap. It's at 211. I personally think this is going to dump pretty low just because of the fragmentation.
Yeah.
So Joe came out yesterday, and I'll read what they said from the Pups token account because maybe it's a little bit easy. They said how this is going to work. Said the runes migration portal will initially exist on BTC to claim runes to your wallet, right? So this is BRC20 Pups to runes Pups. This is then right underneath it says SPL to SPL will eventually be possible when bridges support runes on Solana. Tokens will continue to trade on Solana respective to a pre-split amount before 1 to 100 is wrapped BRC20. No action is necessary, although the opportunity for each holder exists to bridge back to BTC from multi-bit to claim the runes, right? So he's saying right now, the only way to get your runes Pups is to have native BRC20 to burn for runes. He's saying if you have your bridged BRC20 Pups on Solana, the only way to get to runes is having to bridge back from Solana to Bitcoin to then access the portal. He was saying that if you have your BRC20 Pups on Solana, there will be a way some point in the future to swap your SPL BRC20 to the SPL runes. When that happens, though, tough to know, right? That could be another month or two away. It could still be a month or two away from there. So he said, due to ORD and RUD limitations, you're only able to migrate 20 UTXOs at once as well. So that's where Pups is. I mean, it's still holding pretty strong at above $200 million. How low it'll go, I don't know. Again, I'm just because I'm kind of entertained. I want to see somebody spin up a runes Pups as a Solana pool just to say I told you so. That's gonna happen, but we'll see. To me, like people are impatient, and if this like SPL to SPL bridge is not available in the next month, like these people were buying Pups at literally 100K clips at a time. They're going to want that back on Solana, or people are going to say, I want to bridge back to BRC20 and trade on Solana. I do think.
I wonder what the difference in price is between the two. It'd be interesting to see that.
That's actually what I'm most interested in, just as like a case study, is if you have a meme coin that's split across, two different assets.
Yep.
But then you have the liquidity of Solana, and both are trading on Solana. Do both of these pools, right? This is in theory, right? So if you have the BRC20 Solana pool, and then you have the Rune Solana pool, both for Pups, do those pairs reach equilibrium and trade against each other in congruence as they go up? I don't think there's ever been a case of that before. So I'm kind of interested to see if that actually does happen or not.
So I'm just looking at the chart here. It looks like Pups, if I'm on the right one, got a market cap of like 52 million with a liquidity pool of 1 million.
That sounds right.
And a supply of 2.34 million. So I don't know what that puts each one at. It's somewhere around 25 cents?
No, $25.
$25, yeah, $25 each.
Which is probably right, because on CoinGecko it is something around that as well.
So there you go. Yeah, I mean, we found that it will kind of move. I would expect almost Pups on, well, who knows, on Solana. Because the liquidity's there, you can trade it like, in a second. I think that's one of the things we're seeing on runes on Bitcoin, obviously, is that, you can't just dump into it. And so finding a true bottom takes time. So it's pump protection on Bitcoin, maybe another feature, not a bug. I don't know.
Yeah, you look at, the 24-hour chart, since the bridge has been opened, it's literally down like 15%. It's gone from $27 to $22 literally since the bridge opened. So the fragmentation will take a little bit of time to figure out. Again, Joe's an extremely intelligent person when it comes to DeFi and liquidity and stuff. I've just been speaking through my experience at Emblem of seeing how users interact with cross-chain protocols and bridging and wrapping and vaulting and stuff over the last few years. And I don't think any has really gone completely smooth. There's been maybe a few, like I would say DGods actually has done a pretty good job with bridging with NFTs. This is fungible tokens, so maybe a little bit different, but I don't know. I hope the best. The next one, I guess, going through is Wizard. That'll be the big one. Magic Internet Money. Less, it's just very simple. I'm actually starting to see some Wizard people start attacking pups now online because they're in direct competition, right? You have kind of the major four of Dog, Arsic, Magic Internet Money, which is Wizard, and then pups. To me are my four.
Wait, you forgot Roonies, man.
Roonies, of course. Looked on Magic Internet Money.
Roonies. Hey, Dr. Popper, what are the odds that Roonies hits the top four, man?
Oh, hey guys, I think it's a guarantee at this point. It's just going to take a little time.
Bro, how many spaces are you going to have to do to hit the top four? Over or under 1,000 spaces?
All the spaces. Look, do you guys like working that hard? That sounds about like trying to file a claim with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Okay, that does not sound fun.
It's awesome.
Yeah, as we're talking, Pups is now at 200 million, so it's dropped 10 million in market cap since this conversation.
We're fudding this week.
I'll be a buyer around 100 million once it drops that low, if it does.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's the theory. I mean, we could be wrong. We could all be wrong, and Runes could be a zero, and in a year, everybody's understood that fungible tokens on Bitcoin currently are not working, and all these things are at $10 million market caps. That's very, very possible. But it's also possible that 3 or 4 of these are multiple billions of dollars. That's also very possible.
I'm still a believer. I put my prediction out like a week or two before Runes went live. I think 3 billion. There will be 3 Runes at $1 billion market cap in 90 days. Was my prediction. I still feel pretty confident about that. Again, maybe one of the last thing that will end is, and how I got on this topic was I've been thinking of those major four and like what are the differences and like what are the communities that really exist and persist through them. I would say Arsic and Pups is a very similar community. Like a lot of the Arsic holders are pup holders. A lot of the people who've been pushing Arsic have puppet pictures, right? And they're all focused around trading per se. It's mostly traders, right? The Arsic distribution was airdropped to, at least this is the theory, or at least what people are saying, is that it was focused on recent trading activity. It's like where the Arsic airdrop happened to. And so to me, those two communities are pretty similar. Then you have Magic Internet Money and Wizard. I would say that's more tied to, just OG Bitcoiners. Of course, Ansem is backing Pups and Magic Internet Money. So that's like a lot of volume there. But you just think about the communities that circle it. And so Magic Internet Money will probably cater a little bit to the more of the old school, especially people who've known Maven's bot since 2013, right? That could attract some of the ancient whale capital that Udi talks about, right? The ancient Bitcoin whales.
Yep.
And there's no gimmicks. It's just like, this is Magic Internet Money. This is the meme. It was created by the guy, right? There is if you own the Wizard ordinals that Maven's bot had created, then you can get like, I think it's like 5% or 10% or whatever the airdrop is, but there's no bridging. And I don't think it's mostly, there are traders there that are coming over from Ansem's community on Solana, I've seen, but it's not like it doesn't to me appear to be like the ordinal degens are the ones who are really backing this. The ordinal degens are backing Pups and Arsic, at least from what I've seen. And then I look at Dog and I'm looking at like the content, and even if you just put in the hashtag Dog and just scroll through Twitter, it feels like it's a completely different community from everything else. And you think about the people who had gotten a runestone. This could be anything from a trader who bought a rug to somebody who was an experimenter in the early days to an artist to a developer. And it's really, it feels like the most people who are at least promoting it are those who are not traders. They're just holders, right? I mean, I was looking at, I got airdrop 5 rune stones, and 3 of those, or 2 of them, were literally me inscribing something to test for Emblem Vault.
Right.
And then there were airdrops into it from Zbit. So it was just like a completely random occurrence of like 3 of these, right? It's just like kind of fate almost. And you look at the content, and like, again, you could scroll through Leo's kind of feed, or just type in dog or dog go to the moon and just look at it. And it feels, it's mostly small accounts, people who have like under 1,000 followers, and like the videos that people are putting are like, it feels very authentic of a community. Although I know the narrative is that the dog meme,
Right, the narrative that it's fake, right? That's so funny.
Right.
It's like, and I agree with you, man. But the narrative of, you know, a lot of crypto Twitter is the opposite. Oh, this is a AI created. It's mid curve. It's not legit. It's all pumped by Leo. So it's interesting, your point.
Yeah, and to me, it's just like, that's why I think dog is going to be the winner. I think, again, I think all 4 of those that I'd mentioned will be over $1 billion market cap at some point. Those to me are like the major 4. You'll probably have a few that come out of nowhere as well, right? You still have decentralized. That's why I put the tweet out saying there's literally over $51 billion ERC20s on Ethereum. There's zero fungible tokens over $1 billion on Bitcoin right now.
Crazy.
Right? So, you know, as Bitcoin grows and the ecosystem matures, you're going to get a lot of these over to $1 billion. I just think, you know, even if the dog thing feels forced, the meme is not catering to the degens of the ecosystem. And just clearly looking at the feed, it's exactly the people who are promoting it are exactly not traders. They're not, right? It's you got to look past the people who are footing it and kind of look under the hood and see what's actually happening. And I'm looking and seeing like multiple dog accounts, like community run dog accounts popping up. And it really feels a lot similar to Dogecoin, to be honest, right? And early Sheeb, it kind of feels like it, and Pepe and some of these ones that it's like a very authentic community is at least what I'm saying. And this is why I continue to promote it, because first, I'm a big supporter of Leo, right? We both are. We've used to host podcasts with him and stuff like that. But the free and fair distribution is, to me, like my favorite mechanic, because it's a completely different community from these other 3, at least from what I'm saying.
Totally. Go ahead, Popper.
What's up, Brunies?
Let me tell you, I passed my runestone. It was very painful. You guys.
You sold it for Roonies, huh?
Well, Rooney can't quite remedy everything. They did treat. I had some arsenic poisoning, but then I passed my runestone, and man, that hurts. You gotta be very careful. Passing those runestones, it hurts bad. So just make sure you're on the lookout for that, because if you have to pass it, it's painful.
One question I had was, because we talked about it earlier in the show, was like the team controlling a big portion of the distribution, which I think with RSIC, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was like 20%.
10%, 10%.
Or 10%. You know, does that give them kind of a benefit or the potential to, you know, if you've basically taken 10% of the supply offline or able to, you know, does that give them the better potential to, you know, for the token to pump? And that's a possibility. Smarter trader than me would be able to figure that out. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. You know, I'm a big believer in dog. I think it is the mid curve play, which sometimes the silliest, dumbest, you know, we've seen that again and again, where it's just like, oh, this is so dumb, so nothing, that just leads me to believe it's going to be the winner, you know, and that it hasn't, as of now, really come down in price with all that ability for people to sell and dump this thing at multiple times, pre-runes and right into runes. Again, gives me that vibe. Like, this is probably, if I'm laying more money on the table, which I may, if it drops into the kind of 100 million range, dog would be my bet right now.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, the dog community has been in the distribution stage since the Runestone airdrop. So it's really had distribution for about a 2-month head start. RSIC you couldn't sell until they airdrop the runes. You have Pups that has to go through their migration process. And then I would say probably Magic Internet Money is probably closest to going through the distribution phase because you have the BRC20 that you could theoretically sell, although it has pumped quite a lot. So there's no real gimmicks to it.
That's the only one where I've seen the founder or the person leading it has been pretty destroyed on the timeline. The way he handled it. The way he handled it. Oh, we're gonna keep 20% and this and that. It's a marketing budget. People were like,
"Fuck that!
Yeah, fuck you, fuck that, you fucking scammer." You know, changing it up. But I don't know, man. It's who knows. Who knows?
One note on R6. So they had the 10%. This did give them. They did have momentum and a clear advantage to where they took 2% and they gave it to Stakeland for the meme land kind of partnership. And then they're taking another 2 or 3% and putting it through the OKX Jumpstart kind of mining program. And so that gave them a clear advantage because they got listed on OKX. So they were the clear number one, or their Dog doesn't have any tier 1 exchanges listings, but they do, right? They have OKX, which is number 3, I believe. And that gave them momentum to they actually did flip Dog for about a day or two. And once Dog got this week, it just literally went up 50% after it had a few more things pop up, the community page, these 2 different listings, and of course Leo tweeting and people promoting it. It's just I thought RSIC had a lot of momentum, but it turns out that these exchanges will list literally whatever.
It's just about money at the end of the day.
And personally, I think some of these exchanges had bought a bunch of runestones beforehand. I mean, if they were smart, that's what they would have done. If not, then they'll buy into the liquidity. But knowing Leo, who also is building Ord.io, you're in contact with literally everybody and running the Ordinal show. I'm pretty sure, or I'd feel pretty confident saying that they've probably reached out to him, right? And he'll give them the same spiel he gives everyone. We're not listed, right? We're not going to give you a listing fee or whatever. But these exchanges are definitely going to at least say, hey, we're going to list the token or something like that. Like, these exchanges do not just operate in silence for the most part. They do. It does happen every once in a while, but there's generally pretty clear signs. And I would say the chart is generally the strongest sign, right? All the people who front run it.
Yeah, dude, if this gets up to $1 billion, there's 0 chance they don't flip on that. 0 chance. Like, it's going to happen, right? Just for the promotion alone, they want to be on board with that. So, yeah, I honestly, it feels. I mean, people were tweeting me it's inevitable, and it does feel that way. But who knows? Who knows, man?
One final note on this, and then we'll wrap it up here. Leo put out a post yesterday where he was comparing the market cap of Bitcoin to, or the market cap of Ethereum to its top meme coin of Sheeb, and then the top meme, the market cap of Bitcoin, and then he put Dog in there. And this is just moon math numbers, right? So if you get the same equilibrium of ETH to Sheeb, of Bitcoin to Dog, it puts it at a $44 billion market.
I'm surprised it's only 44 billion, That's amazing.
Right? That would put it double what Doge is. But remember the conversation we had with Leo about like what should the supply of it be?
Totally. Yeah.
We were like, well, if you think of like if Doge goes to $1, I think it puts the market cap of Doge around like 200 billion or something like that.
Yep.
Right. So we're like, okay, if you want to get the memes of like Dog to $1, right, you have to kind of put a clear prospect out and think where Doge will be if you wanted to flip Doge.
Yep.
So I think that's why I put it at 100 billion, right? Is that would put $100 billion market cap if Dog went to $1. And that's a pretty crazy number, right? I would say Doge is probably going to go over that at some point.
Yep.
But it's a pretty good target to have for the meme numbers. So even then, right, 44 billion is still under what the target is of 100 billion, which sounds crazy.
Oh, what does that make each runestone worth? Oh my God, man. Oh my God. Makes me FOMO. The FOMO is starting all over again, man.
I thought about it. I was like, should I sell some? I haven't sold a single Dog or anything because I was like, this is going to go much, much higher.
Yeah.
I was like, should I sell some dog at some point and just sweep runes? Because there's still 2 other tokens. I have no insight into what these other 2 tokens are. But I suspect as dog grows, the value of runestone will grow because it's also a meme coin at the end of the day too, right? It's a meme collection.
Yep.
I would honestly say you could even see runestone competing with some of these runes to be the top meme collection. Like if people forget, runestone was the #1 collection in ordinals.
Yeah.
It was #2 collection across the industry for a while.
Crazy, man.
I don't think that just disappears. I think there does have some value flow from dog back into that at some point.
Yep.
And that starts pumping. And this is where you'll get these crazy like numbers a year or 2 from now of like, what is the value of all the runestone airdrops? Is
Well,
probably
something to keep in the back of your mind, like when runestone really starts drop, really gets like some price bottom. And I mean, thinking that dog actually does become #1 meme coin on Bitcoin. Maybe, okay, it becomes #1 meme coin in the world. Let's just hold that as an idea. When runestone starts dropping to its bottom, you know, in 6 months, a year, where it's nothing, nobody's even talking about them anymore or whatever, do they come back into play when, because Leo's promised like the last drop of runestone will be when dog becomes the #1 meme coin in the world, right? That it's going to have its baby brother, you know, meme coin or whatever, you know, what's it going to be worth then? So it's interesting to think about, man. Lots of dynamics in play.
I have a theory on what the last one will be. So he said the second one would be a meme coin. You think of like what could the third one be, right? If you're doing another meme coin for #2, which I think he said was going to be like more of a customized like community one, like they could build whatever character that you want.
Yep.
I think it's the ord.io token. If he does one, would be my guess. Like what in
Ooh, that'd be interesting, man.
like what incentive is like what could you top if dog becomes a #1 meme coin?
Yeah.
Like what could you offer at that point, right? Like what the only thing you could really offer is something that he's personally backing, right? That could be it. That would be my guess. Again, I have no insight to it as what it is, but that would be my speculatory guess, would be dropping some sort of ord. I mean, ord raised $1 million. Think about it. Ord raised $1 million, or was it $2 million? I don't remember. I think maybe
a
it was
couple
2
million. Yeah.
They're hiring developers right now, right? And he's made this post at least 10 times, right? And so you have to think, what are they building there? I guarantee you it's not just an Explorer. I can guarantee you that, right? Like if building an Explorer, they've done on their own. So if they're getting very sophisticated in their development, this is probably something very important, which means that there's always potential for a token, right? If there is some sort of financial product. Again, my speculation, my moon math, what better to be than if you're at the top of the game and then you drop a token for basically the top explorer and whatever XYZ things come next. To me, that's the only thing really you could do.
It'd be exciting.
Say the least. Chris, have you loaded up your rune bags?
Rune bag is nice. This is an industry that's literally built on tokens. The fact that people somehow don't think that tokens are going to succeed on Bitcoin is like one of the easiest trades that I've ever come across. So doesn't get easier than that. I don't know. There's so much. This industry is just so focused on tomorrow rather than weeks, months, or years. I mean, Bitcoiners are supposed to be, prioritizing low time preference, but they're the first ones to call anything a scam or a failure within like 48 hours. So makes the trade even easier.
Right, man. You're right, dude.
You heard it here first. Oh man, another fun Thursday Inscription show conversation, man. Feels like there's more and more stuff to talk about every single time. Appreciate everyone who joined us today. As you know, we work at Emblem Vault, the leading cross-chain NFT protocol in the industry. We had a lot of major announcements. We're going to be hosting our town hall at the end of the month, and we'll cover everything that's happened in the restructuring, new products, Emblem markets, etc. We host the show Tuesday through Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. We will be back next Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Until then, everybody, make sure that you protect yourself. Make sure that you get them bags loaded for the inevitable bull run. Runes are dead, and we will hopefully revive them next Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Until then, see ya.